Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 7, and this particular one will be over Knapp's stages of relationship development. As you can see, there are 10 basic stages that Knapp displays on this. The first 5 are the building or development of the relationship. The latter 5 are the deteriorating or the ending of the relationship. Well, let's go through these step by step, and then we'll talk about the whole cycle. Step 1 is initiating. That is the whole notion of seeing that person across that smoky room or noticing the person in the classroom or something. This is we're strangers. I don't know you, but I think I want to get to know you. Personality situation. That's what that is. Step 2 is experimenting. It's where you shift from stranger to acquaintance. That's where you try to find out that person's name, or you walk up and ask them and say, "Hey, hi, I'm Tim. What's your name?" Whatever. This is the whole experimentation. You're kind of feeling out how you two might fit together and all that fun stuff. Next 3 is intensifying. That is the actual expanding of the depth and breadth of your self-disclosure, as we talked about from last chapter. It's the notion of building the relationship and developing more information and becoming more intimate in that relationship. This is also where you start talking about the meta communications, or the idea of communicating for the sake of communicating, or communicating about communicating. And in this case, we're talking about possibly actually having a relationship. No longer are we, "Hey, what you doing? Let's go hang out." And, it's an implied kind of notion. This is where we're actually setting this stuff down in concrete and saying, okay, maybe we do want to have a relationship. That's step 3. Step 4 is integrating. This is the whole moving from the I to the we. Instead of, "I would like to do this, you want to do that," all this stuff. This is the we. This is where we become that royal we, so to speak. This is where we become, what do I got? Brangelina, or, I don't know, Kanye. It's the whole notion of when the two become one, you become simpatico, you become this group. That's the notion of integration. And that's when you start moving that. And then there's step 5, sorry. And step 5 is the bonding stage. This is where we actually make that formal commitment, whether it's announcing on Facebook, whether it's telling our family and friends that we're in a relationship, whatever, actually becoming engaged, or just saying, we're dating, we are mutually exclusive, or we are in a monogamous relationship, or whatever you want to say. The whole point is, at this point, that is number 5. That's when your relationship solidifies into an actual relationship. Now, we can stay at that relationship or that phase for any length of time. We've seen people that have been engaged for years, decades even. But that's not the point. This is the stages as we transition. So when you're in the bonding stage, or the bonded stage, this is where everything is pretty much hunky-dory. We're all in a good relationship. We are who we are. We're effectively communicating back and forth and all those fun things. Then we start looking at the deteriorating relationships, the stages as the relationship starts falling apart. First is differentiating. This is the inverse of integrating. This is where we went from we to I to we. Now we're looking back to breaking ourselves apart from we to I. Going into, that's my tools, or this is my space, or I want to do these things. This is where the verbal communication, we start we start criticizing each other. Instead of building up and helping each other, we're criticizing each other. This is that nagging or assaulting situation going on. Then we go from 6 to 7, and 7 is the circumscribing stage. This is where we start, in our communicating skills, we start drawing taboo areas. We start saying, we don't talk about that. That is a sore subject, and we will not talk about it. We'll just not discuss it. We'll leave it alone. We're not going there. This restricts your communication. This makes it very difficult for you to have effective communications, to deal with problems as they arise, because you've already said you can't talk about these or you can't talk about that. Step 8 is stagnation, or stagnating. And this is where we don't really talk much at all anymore. It's all just necessary communication. It's that talk because did you feed the dog? Dog needs to go to the vet. What about the kids? Where are the kids at? What's for dinner? All those things. We're as we talked about last semester, the interpersonal versus impersonal. This is that shift. We went from interpersonal communications in our relationship where we were talking about anything and everything down to now we're just talking about the impersonal situation of the things we have to discuss. That's stagnation. Number 9 is avoidance. That's where we just literally avoid communications altogether. If we do have to communicate, it's by posting on the refrigerator door or a 1-line text message, or just sending a message through a friend or a colleague or whatever. We avoid that communication. And then there's step 10, which is terminating, which can come in any number of shapes, sizes, or things. It can be just a walk away from the relationship. If you're married, it can be a divorce. There's that old song that's there's 50 ways to leave your lover. I'd say there's a lot more than that. So that's the whole notion of these stages. You start from initiating, you end in terminating. Now, this diagram shows this circular pattern. And it shows that you lead from here to here. But they also show jumping back and forth across the stabilization field. And the whole notion here is that although this is a circular pattern or a linear pattern, so to speak, and if you take that notion of like time travel and you take this string and you stretch this line out and you say, okay, this is initiating, this is terminating, and we go, this is initiating, sorry, let me get this in, this is initiating, this is terminating, and we have a straight line. Now you take that string and you bundle it up together because you can jump from any point to any point all along those curves. Any of that stuff can go anywhere it needs to be. You can go from initiating to intensifying to stagnating. You can do all of these things. You can be progressed all the way along here. You can be all the way up around here and then jump back over to here and rebuild your relationship. You can come up, you can be working your way up and then fall backwards and zigzag back and forth. You can be in the integrating and the experimenting phase at the same time. None of this is set in stone to say this is the only way it can work. Now, as we said before, when you start expanding your depth and breadth, when you start expanding, you start self-disclosure, and you start allowing these things, it kind of needs to be equal, reciprocal and equal in nature. It also needs to be progressive, in that you don't come in and you say, oh, I like that person, and walk up to you and say, will you marry me? There are people that go that extreme. But the reality of it is this is something that needs to be simpatico in ways that it moves up and down. And again, it's not just because you find yourself in phases 6, 7, or 8 does not mean you're heading definitely to 10. Just means you need to fall back to maybe 2 or 3 and do some more things. Maybe you need to go back to integrating and build your relationship better. Sorry. And so in all, this is not the end-all be-all thing, and it's not some linear pattern. It can be fluid. You can be in any stage at any point in time. You can go from bonding to termination in a blink of an eye, or you can go from stagnating and avoiding where we're not talking to simply solving that problem that you had, and all of a sudden you're back to the way everything was hunky-dory. So just remember, Mark Knapp said this is his function, this is his stages of development, of relationship development, and it's something to be aware of.